Good morning. How's everybody doing on this beautiful Sunday? I hope everybody's staying healthy and still practicing social distancing while we're going through this coronavirus and everything. So I hope everybody's doing all right. Like I said, I meant to live stream this, but unfortunately, it takes 24 hours to update your stream on YouTube for some reason. I guess to verify your account. So I wasn't able to live stream, but I'm gonna definitely still work on it and try. I'm not really good with technology like that, so be a little patient with me, and I'll get it right eventually. Well, of course, as you know, church starts at 10 a.m. They're gonna live stream on Facebook, so make sure you tune in for that. But go ahead and watch this video, before Bible class, before the main service, or you can watch after either way. But the good thing is it's on the internet, so it'll be there for you to view as many times as you like. So going into the lesson today, I wanted to talk about if I had to give a title for this lesson is "Don't Look Back," and I was reading the book of Genesis, and I was reading the story about Abraham and his nephew Lot. And if you're familiar with the story, when Abraham, I talked a little bit about him last class, but if you're familiar with the story of Abraham, Abraham was, the pretty much the father of, the children of Israel. God gave him the promise that through your seed, all nations will be blessed. And when Abraham came to the land of Canaan, he also brought his family with him. He brought his wife, Sarah. He also brought his nephew, Lot, was one of the people that came with him. And Abraham and Lot had so many possessions that they couldn't fit all the possessions in one area. They had problems with their servants fighting over land and things like that. So they kind of had to split off from each other just simply because they just had too many possessions and they couldn't stay together with all their possessions because it was just causing too much conflict. And that's where you have Abraham staying in the land of Canaan where he resides, and then Lot kind of goes near. I think it was either Sodom or Gomorrah. Both the cities were close together, but basically he went to the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, and those cities were very bad. They were evil cities. They had a lot of problems, and they did a lot of sinning over there and things like that. So Lot it was a good place for farmland, and it was a lot of room for them, but the people in the city were very bad. It was a very bad environment. So they split up, and over time, it comes to the point where Sodom and Gomorrah were so bad that God decides, I'm going to destroy those cities because those cities were so doing so many sins. There's no telling what they were doing. That God says, I'm going to destroy those cities. But before he does that, he talks to Abraham. And the reason he talks to Abraham first is because God knows that Abraham's nephew, Lot, is living near those cities and that Abraham would be concerned about him. So God talks to Abraham and he sends them angels and everything, and they have a conversation and everything. And I'm not going to go into details about the story, but that kind of goes into the famous story where Abraham tries to knock down the number of how many good people live in the city. So God wanted to destroy it. So finally, Abraham just kind of like, can you get my nephew out, pretty much. And God does so. And so the situation is that I'm about to read from the scriptures right now. But the situation is that God's about to destroy the city. The angels will go to visit Lot. Lot protects the angels, takes them into his household. And then the angels say, we're about to destroy the city. We need you to leave, essentially. So that's where I'm starting right now. This will be Genesis chapter 19, verses 15 through 26. So a lot of verses. I usually tend to read a lot of different verses. Like I average about 3 verses each class, but this time I'm just going to read a lot from one passage. But I will be reading King James version. I found my King James Bible. So I'll be reading my King James Version this time. Genesis chapter 19, verses 15 through 26. And when the morning arose, the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his two daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him. And they brought him forth, and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain, except to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said to him, O no, not so, my lord. Behold, thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me, in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. Behold now, this city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. O let me escape thither. It is not a little one, and my soul shall live. And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing, also that I will not overthrow the city for which thou hast spoken. So the angels pretty much get a hold of Lot over his wife, his daughters, his family, and says, dragged him out the city and said, you need to go because we're going to destroy this city. And Lot, finally complies, but where they told him to flee initially, Lot was like, I can't make it there. I can't, I guess, I don't know if he was older at this time, but he felt like he couldn't make it to the place that God wanted him to go. So they're like, Lot says, can I go to this city? And then the angels are like, you know what? We'll let you do this. Go to this city and we'll not destroy this city. We'll destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Those are going to be destroyed, but we won't destroy this city that you want to go to. I think the city is called Zion. It ends up being called Zion. I'm not sure if it's called Zion at this time or later. But he says, you can go to the city. So let's continue. 22. Hast thee escaped thither, for I cannot do anything till thou come thither. Basically, the angel saying, I can't destroy it until you leave. Therefore, the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and with all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities, that which grew upon the ground. But his wife, Lot's wife, looked back behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. So we have Lot fleeing. The angels take him out of the city to safety, but Lot and his family were instructed never to look back to the city. While they destroyed it, Lot's wife looked back, and she turned into a pillar of salt. Now, when I think of this passage, when I was, this class is about applying, we're more about biblical application. We try to take all the things in the Bible and we try to relate it to what we're dealing with nowadays. And for me, I hope I'm applying it correctly, but to me that jumped out about this passage is the idea of repentance. I was told growing up, my dad used to always say, repentance is a 180, not a 360. And if you're familiar with degrees, is that 180 means you turn the opposite direction of where you're headed, but you just stay that direction. 360 means you're turning around, but you're coming back to the original point that you're looking. So if I'm looking, let's say north, 180 will be looking south. But if I'm doing a 360, then I'm coming back around to north. And when it comes to Lot fleeing with his family, Lot was in an evil place. He left that evil place, but he didn't look back. But his wife looked back. To tell you another story, kind of going along with my point, this is a real story. I used to live in an apartment And it wasn't a very good apartment. I was trying to save money, so I stayed somewhere that I probably was not the best place to stay. This was I was back in college, back in Huntsville, and the apartment complex had some rough people there. I'll say that it had some rough people, and I had some neighbors. Every other day, they seemed to be arguing. Like they were, it was like violent arguments. They were just cussing each other out and everything. I would hear them. The walls were thin at the time at my apartment, and I would hear them all the time talking and disrespecting each other and things like that. And I actually bought earplugs just to so I could sleep because they would argue. It was always like at the weirdest times of night, usually like at 3 a.m. or something. Like I don't know, but they were always arguing about something. And one day I was sitting at my computer doing some work. I think it was a Sunday. I think it was like after church. It was a Sunday, and I was just sitting at my computer, just typing away, doing work and things like that. And I heard a window crack, and I stepped out of my apartment and I looked across to the other side where they lived, and they had busted a window because they had gotten into a fight, and they were throwing hands at each other. And I probably shouldn't have. I don't know if I should have gotten involved. I don't know if that was the right thing. I probably should have just stayed out of it. But anyway, my gut reaction was I jumped out and I was like, "Hey, kind of chill out and everything." And I walked downstairs, and the guy was, highly upset and everything. And I just calmed him down. I talked to him, and I stepped, and he walked away with me, away from, I think it was his girlfriend. Uh, and I tried to talk him down, calm him down. I was like, I said, you don't want to go to jail. You don't want to hit this woman. It just, this is not going to turn out good for you and everything. And he's very emotional and not thinking straight, and he was almost in tears, to be almost like he was very angry, and he was saying like, no, she always hits me, she always beats me. And then he showed me his face, and he had scars on his face. And he just kind of told me the story how she would always do stuff and everything. And it seems like from hearing their arguments and just seeing the physical marks on his face, it seems like he was being abused a lot of times, and he finally blew up and decided to fight back, which happens a lot more than you think. Anybody can get abused. It's not just young children and ladies. Men can get abused too if you allow that to happen to you. And in this situation, it was a man being abused by his woman. That's what it seemed like to me from the information I had, and. She actually scarred him and everything. He finally blew up, but at the end of the day, the cops are not gonna care. You'll probably be the one to be in jail, not the lady, because you're the one that's out in the open fighting her and everything. People are not from the standpoint. It looks really bad for you. And I was talking to him, and someone had already called the police, so the police were on the way. So I was just sitting there talking to him until the police came. And I was like, man, I said, you need to get out of here, because I was like, if you're in a situation where you're being abused, you can't stay here. And then he was like, man, you're right. He said, I need to leave and everything. So the cops come. He goes with the cops. He talks to him and everything. He doesn't get arrested or anything like that, but he talks to the cops. They talk him down and everything. He gets his stuff and he leaves. 2 weeks later, I was walking to my apartment, and I happened to look towards the house where that couple used to stay, and guess who I see? The same guy walk right back out. And I didn't even say nothing to him. We just looked at each other, and I just walked up the stairs and went into my room. And I was thinking so much. I was like, this man's getting abused by his woman. He's getting abused so much that he blows up and tries to fight her. And then he says all this stuff about trying to leave. Then he's right back 2 weeks later. And kind of similar in the story of Lot. He had an issue of looking back. A lot of times when we go through life, there are things that we know we should leave, things we have left, bad habits we've gotten rid of. But for some reason, we always tend to look back. And a lot of times it's because we convinced our minds that that thing that we had before wasn't so bad, so we go back to it, and then we realize how bad it was. Then we try to leave it again, but then we forget how bad or how dysfunctional or how bad the situation was, and we always constantly chase back after it. This is what you see with the children of Israel a lot. They always the whole time when they left Egypt, God does powerful miracles in Egypt. He sends the plagues. He leads them across the Red Sea. But the problem with Israel that they always look back. They always said, whenever something bad happened, or if they were uncomfortable, or if they were a lack of food or anything, they always look back and say, Egypt wasn't that bad. I can look back and go there. And when we apply that to our own lives, we do that all the time. I know for me personally, there's things that I've dealt with that I always end up doing again, even though I don't want to do it. And my problem was I just simply looked back. Instead of doing a 180, turn away from that thing and just going straight and walking away from it, I do a 360. I look back. I say, you know what? I wasn't that bad when I was doing those things, or when I had those bad habits. I can control it. I can handle it. I'm gonna look back. Just like my neighbor who got back with that girl. He probably said in his mind, he said, yeah, she was threw hands on me. She scratched me up and everything. But what about the good times we had? What about, it wasn't that bad, and that's what convinced himself which is why he went back there. And I'm not sure if he's there now. Who knows? But a lot of the struggles we deal with is simply because we look back at something we should have never even turned towards. And I think as we go through these changes and everything, through this, like, we're dealing with the coronavirus. I don't want to talk about it today because, you're probably hearing it too much on the news. But a lot of the things they were saying is that once we get through this time, that the U.S. is not going to be the same. Countries in general are not going to be the same because of this big pandemic. And there are a lot of people who are not going to accept that. A lot of people are going to look back and say, we need to go back to how it was before. Well, you can't, because we've had a natural catastrophe that changed society, changed how we operate, changed things like that. And we shouldn't look back, and we can't go back, because we'll have to make changes so we don't, so we can avoid these dangerous situations again. And I think as we go through our Christian walk, we have to realize that there are things that we have to leave in the past. It needs to stay in the past. We can't look back towards it. I would even go far to say there's people that we can't go back to. There's certain people that that are in our past that need to stay in our past, and we can't go back to them. We shouldn't go back to them. We have to learn to let go of things. Don't look back. And once we learn that, the easier it is for us to become better and become stronger and become better Christians, because we're not looking back to those things that we had before and saying, those things look good. We're not even looking at it. We're going forward, and we're looking towards better things and going towards better things, and not looking back towards the old things. But that's all I had today. Pretty short lesson. I just wanted to give more words of encouragement while we're dealing with this quarantine and things like that. But just because the economy has stopped doesn't mean Christians stop. We're going to keep learning. We're going to keep growing, and we're going to keep doing good things that God wants us to do. So I'll see y'all next time. Our next class will be Thursday. I'm going to try to get the live stream up. And if I can't, I'll just record like I do, like I've been doing so far, and we'll go from there. All right. See y'all at 10 a.m. for actual class for main service on the Facebook live stream. All right, I'm out.